Hi, it's Will again. I'm back to the third part of the XedMod tutorial series. Today we're going to look at animation, a little bit of scripting, and particles. So if I create a project and call it test as usual, and I create a template level. If you have trouble keeping up with any of the different parts of this tutorial, please check out the first two parts to this series, because it should help out some of the things I'm being a bit quick about. So if we go to the player, and we need to attach our animated model, and so I'm going to go to the project source directory, and I'm going to drag in an animated model I've downloaded. It just has a diffuse texture and the animated model itself. So if I go to attach asset, add the asset here, and you see it's playing the whole animation cycle here. And if we go to the material editor, we apply our diffuse texture. Now I don't actually have a normal and specular component, but there's no worries there, because I can add a blank one from the game. If I go to system textures and then normal.dds for the normal, and spec.dds for the specular. And then if I make sure that's exported, now if we run the animation now, or if we run the game now, the animation will be in an idle pose, and it won't actually be playing anything. We have to tell the engine to actually play the animation. But if we just run the game, just to make sure that the model is going through the pipeline correctly. Yeah, so it's very small and it's lying down. So we need to actually tell the engine to play the animation. So if we go to our level script, and where we're creating the player, we need to call something on the animation behavior of the player entity. Now the animation behavior is a special behavior that's added by the engine when it loads a model with animation. So what we can do is we can say agePlayerEntity dot animation behavior, and then we're going to call, just to test it out, we're going to call play cycle by ID and then 0. If you don't have any animation segments with your animation, XedMod will automatically just throw the entire animation into one big cycle, and we can call that here. So if we run now, we'll find as the character should be walking, and there we go, it's playing that cycle. Now if you're trying to add animation yourselves, you probably end up exporting the entire timeline, and that will contain all of the different animations that the character will be performing, like an idle or a run. This situation is a bit funny because it's just got the walking, but we'll split it up anyway just to show you how. So we need to go to the source directory, and where we have our source model, we need to create a new file. We give it the same name as the file already there, but we end it with .metadata. So it's very important it's in the same directory and has the same name, but it ends in .metadata and all lowercase. So if we write some XML here, you only need to write this once, and you can copy and paste it from a sample or one you've done before. So we need animations. I'm just going to set the syntax highlighting. So this is our animation segment, and we need to give it a unique name. It's very important that all of the segments have unique names, and I'm just going to call this one all. We need a start frame, and that's going to be 0, and we need an end frame. Now I know this animation has 101 frames, so I'm just going to put in 101 here. And then we save this file and re-export the model. Now if we go back to our script in the game, what we can do here is we can say play cycle and then give it the name of the cycle we just created, so all. Now there's also play action. The difference between cycle and action is action will just simply play the animation once, whereas cycle will continue indefinitely. So we want to continue the cycle, and this is playing all. Now we've exported the model, so let's run the game, and there shouldn't be any difference between the last time we ran the game, but it will just be playing. So to show this working a little better, I'm going to add another segment, and I'm going to call this test, and I'm going to start on frame 5 and end on frame 15. We save that file, make sure it's saved, and make sure the model is exported. And in our level script, I'm just going to say test. Now what we'll have here is a very incomplete animation. It'll probably be very jittery. It's only about 10 frames, but it's just to show that the segment is there and we're playing it. Yeah, so there we have it. Just going to remove that engine particle effect while we're here, because it's kind of in the way. So you can also add events to your animation. You can choose a segment in which to put it and define a frame, and you can run some Lua script on that event. So what we're going to do is going to add an event here. Unfortunately there's no actual editor for this XML at the moment. There might be one coming in the future though. We're going to have this play on frame 10. And you also need a script node, and this is the actual script that will be executed. So just for testing, I'm just going to get it to print out hello world. So what we have here is the animation from 0 to 101 frames, and then we have the event playing on frame 10 of this particular animation. So it's important that this frame is relative to the segment it's in. If we were adding an event on the first frame of test, we would have frame 0 in here, and the frame could be no greater than 10 because there's only 10 frames in this segment. Obviously in here it can be no greater than 101. So if we make sure this is saved and export the model. Now we won't actually be able to see any output in the game, but we can look at the output from the engine, and we should have the debug window. We're still playing the test animation. So this event won't have fired because in our level script we're still playing this segment. So let's change that back to all and rerun. So there's nothing visible here, but if we go to project and then SSZ output, we can see that hello world is being output, which is good. Now for more control over the events you use in your animation, you can set up kind of a callback system to use with your prefab. So what we need to do is we need to add a script to the player, and we're going to do that by going to the data directory, going to the levels folder and creating a new script. I'm going to call this player.lua. Now if your script is more general and it's not linked to the level, you can put it in data scripts. But you need to make sure it doesn't overwrite a script that's already in the game data directory of Strikes You 0. So now I'm just going to put it in levels. We have our player.lua, and I'm going to attach it to the script behavior here. This is the script behavior that's attached to the player. And if we open this file for edit, now when you're attaching scripts to entities, it's always a good idea to require the scripts system core. This is the core set of scripts from Strikes You 0. I don't think we'll need it in this situation, but it's always good to include it. So if we create a callbacks table, and we create a callback called on event. Ooh. Spell it right. And we just assign that nil. And then we need a function on this, on the entity, which we can call from the main script, which attaches a function to that callback. So if we function set callback, and here we have as callback, and we have a function to call. Now in here we need to assign that callback to the table. So if we say as callbacks, the parameter, and then equals the function. When we're executing our event, we need to call a function on the entity here. So we need a function to actually fire off the event, and I'm just going to call that on event. And I'm going to call the function in the callback if it exists. So if we say two callbacks, and then it's on event, if does not equal nil, then and we're just going to call it with no parameters. So we save this script, and then in our main level script, we want to, on the player entity, call set callback, give it the name of the callback you want to call, and then a function which matches the empty parameter list we have here. So I'm just going to create a function called on event callback. And in here for the function, I'm going to put it in here. Now to show this is working, I'm just going to print on event callback, and then make sure the script is saved. Make sure the model is exported, although I think it was already up to date. Now if we run, looks like we have a problem. It's in player.lua 15. That would help. Save that and run again. So if we go to our project and SSZ output again, we have hello world. That's right. So we need to go back into our event and actually call that function. What was the function called? It was called on event. And make sure that's saved. And because it's the metadata file for the model, we need to make sure the model is exported again. And then when we run, we should have the on event callback being printed to the output window. And there it is. So I wanted to touch on particles as well today, and another handy feature called the attached to node behavior. What I'm going to do is going to create a new prefab, and we're going to call it player node. Put it in the player folder, and I'm going to attach a behavior called the attached to node behavior, and I'm also going to attach a particle behavior. Now inside the player, what I want to try and do is put a particle in each hand of the model, and I also, to do that, I need to find the node of the hand inside the mesh, and attached node behavior will attach this entity to that node. So if I drag in player node into player, I'm holding Alt at the moment, and I create a pointer to player node, what this will do is it will act a lot like a prefab instance, and the player node is now pointing back to this player node here. I'm actually going to get rid of shoot slot P1 and P2, and I'm going to rename this to shoot slot P1, mainly because I just want it to shoot from the hand as well. So in attached node behavior, in the node here, I'm going to type Igor underscore L arm palm. Now I've had a look at this model, and I've seen all of the nodes in the hierarchy. I use a free tool called a simp view, which is part of our model importer. If I drag this in here, you'll see these are all the nodes in the hierarchy of the mesh, and we have Igor underscore L arm palm, which I've added in here. Now if you're making the model yourself, you'd obviously know the hierarchy, so you just need to put in the node in the mesh there. And we're going to add a particle in here. Now particles are a little bit strange in how they work. We don't actually have an editor for them with XedMod, so unfortunately it's quite difficult to make your own. At the moment we're only really supporting using the ones in Strike-Suit 0. Because you reference a particle by name, we have this tagging system where you can, each particle has a unique name, and you can simply just look up the particle name in a big directory, and you do this by going onto this T here, and you get a big list of all the tags, and at the moment we only have particles in this tagging system. I'm actually just going to borrow the particle name from here, which is a particle system that's set up in the temporary, in the template level, and I'm just going to put that in here. So now what this will do is this prefab here with the attached to node behavior will be attached to at every frame the left hand node, which is here, and it will be playing a particle effect. So we should see a trail coming from our character's hand. So if I push F6 to run, and there we have it, the trail's coming out of the hand. Now we could do something here with the right hand as well. So in the node list we can see that we have R arm palm, so we could put R in here and this will change to the right hand. If I push F6, which has gone to the right hand. And we could also clone this shoot slot node, change this one to the left, this one to the right, so we have left and right. And because these are called shoot slots, and I covered the shoot slot system in the previous video, because these are set up this way, the weapon that's set up with the player will also fire from these. So what we should have if we try and shoot is trails coming from the hands, and then if we shoot, out come the shots from the hand. So that's all I really wanted to cover in this tutorial. I'm going to be going into depth into more prefab stuff soon, and we will have some more scripting tutorials from one of our designers to help you put together missions soon. So I hope this has been informative, and have fun.